Wildlife experts believe the protection is unnecessary. You can read her in-depth report online at deseretnews.com. ISIS attacks and the refugee crisis in Syria have brought issues surrounding religious freedom to the forefront of the presidential election. Dr. Daniel Mark serves as commissioner on the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. He sits down with Candice Madsen to discuss his concerns about the widening partisan divide on these issues.
Daniel, let's start with your role as commissioner. What are the most pressing issues that you are addressing right now?
Well, unfortunately, there are many issues to address in the world. The situation of religious freedom around the world is pretty tough right now, and in general, the thing that's most on people's minds, I would say, is the situation in the Middle East with ISIS. It's the scale, the sheer brutality of what ISIS is doing has captured the attention of the world, of course, and is in some ways unprecedented. And that's the first thing that's on our minds, but it's also one of the hardest things to deal with because the normal mechanisms of relationships, let's say between governments, that we usually work through is not really applicable in the same way with a case like ISIS.
When it comes to ISIS, do you think a lot of people think of that as an attack on religious freedom? I mean, we hear so much about terrorism, but not the religious freedom part.
Well, I hope people do. I think that the attacks in Paris, for example, which is very much connected, was not just an attack on innocent civilians. It was an attack on people who don't believe the way they do. And that's really a big part of what's motivating. More obviously, and even more acute than that, because it's ongoing in such a horrific way, is the persecution of Christians, Yazidis, other religious minorities in the Middle East. And anyone who's informed about the situation in the Middle East, even minimally, I would hope would be aware of the way in which ISIS has particularly targeted some of these very vulnerable religious minorities.
Do you think the Obama administration is doing enough to protect international religious freedom?
Well, unfortunately, I say this speaking for myself and not for the commission specifically. I think the Obama administration could be doing more. Throughout the presidency, even before the crisis with ISIS began, I think that the president did not speak out forcefully enough on the issue of religious freedom. The position that he appoints, the ambassador at large for international religious freedom, was empty for a long time in the Obama administration. He has a great appointee in there now, a terrific one, but the position was empty for far too long. We hear a lot from the Obama administration talk of freedom of worship, which we take as a narrowing of freedom of religion. It kind of refers to what people do in private or do in their churches on Sunday, and it lacks a full, proper understanding of religious freedom, which encompasses so much more than Sunday worship or private things in one's homes. And of course, the Obama administration does play a role in allowing what occurred in Syria. It's a very difficult situation. There were no easy answers then. There are no easy answers now. But it's also the case that intervention earlier perhaps could have prevented this terrible persecution in the Middle East.
Religious freedom has certainly become a key issue in the presidential election. Do you see it as a problem that Republicans and Democrats, there's this increasing divide about how to address and protect religious freedom?
Yeah, you ask an excellent question. Religious freedom, I'd always like to think of as a water's edge kind of issue. The commission that I serve on is a bipartisan commission, or in a way we might say a nonpartisan commission. We have members appointed by leaders in both parties. And one would like to think that that would be the kind of issue where members from both sides of the aisle could really get together and agree, especially given how severe the persecution is. And in some cases, that's certainly true. But it's also the case, unfortunately, that some of the partisanship from Washington tends to creep in different views about what religious freedom is exactly.
How do you define it?
Well, on the commission in particular, as great as the First Amendment is, and of course, I love the First Amendment, we actually focus on the definition in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that was adopted through the UN, 1948, which guarantees the right of every person to worship in private or in public, as an individual or in a group. And we really like that formulation because it gives such a robust definition that makes clear that what individuals do shouldn't be confined to their homes. It's not the kind of thing that should be confined to prayer, but all manner of freedom of religion and belief. And I should say, we are careful generally to say religion or belief, which includes people of no religious belief at all.
Now, for the people watching at home, what can the everyday American do to better inform themselves about religious freedom and And how do they get involved in making change?
Yeah, well, we get that question all the time, and there are no easy answers. It's so hard, even as people in this independent government advisory role that I have, it's very hard to actually make change. But the first thing, like you said, is for people to inform themselves. For example, on our website, which is uscirf.gov, uscirf.gov, for what it's worth, we have an annual report that we put out every year, monitoring and reporting on the very worst countries with respect to religious freedom and highlighting key issues. That's a great one-stop shopping for people to learn about it. Obviously, reading the news and focusing on those kind of news stories is something all Americans could benefit from doing more. It may sound a little bit cheesy, but in our situation as trying to move the government and given the real oppression around the world, prayer is always welcome and encouraged. And then after that, it's really a matter of people encouraging their politicians to make this an issue, to make religious freedom and international religious freedom an issue.
Great. Daniel, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Very interesting, Candice, thank you. Next, all parents want to set their kids up for success. Straight ahead, see how changing the way you